What's up guys, and welcome. You are watching Fazi Fitness. So just in case any of you guys have forgotten how a prime Big Ramy looked like training in the gym, well, this is a nice throwback to remind us all that Big Ramy was just a different breed. He was a different animal altogether. And one can only imagine all the nightmares he must have given to the competition during all those years when he was coming up, when he was moving up those Olympia ranks. So just that thought of what's gonna happen if Big Ramy nails it 100% on the stage, that kept on bothering everyone. But unfortunately, when that finally happened, in 2020, he lost many attributes that made him so special in the first place. Although he won the Olympia, and that too twice, but he was never the same as he was when he was young. For instance, his waistline wasn't the same when he won the Olympia in comparison to, let's say, 2014, when he made his Olympia debut. His back also started to show signs of atrophy due to that nerve injury. And I guess Big Ramy was very lucky that he was able to win the second Miss Olympia of his career back in 2021. That was a really close battle between him and Brendan Carey that year. So is there anything that Big Ramy could have done differently to have a better career? Because the thing is, he had the physique and he had the structure to win multiple Arnold titles and more than 2 Miss Olympia titles. And yes, I'm gonna say, he just should not have chased more size. He already had all the size in the world. And yes, that widening of waist, that also comes with age. But being 350 pounds during the off-season, that also contributes towards that. And Ramy from the year 2015 onwards, he was also always very big during the off-season. So one day we will all love to hear from Big Ramy himself on what he would have done differently if he could go back in time. So Hostel just dropped some Sherpa-lined zip-up hoodies and forced hooded jackets. So do check him out and use the code FAZI10 to get 10% extra discount. So the first official statement has been released by Michael the Bull after this year's Arnold 2025. And out of all the guys who competed at that show, add him to the list of those guys who did not have an ideal peak for this past Arnold. So this makes 3 out of the top 5 guys from this year's Arnold who did not have a smooth last week. Leading into the show, starting with the champ Mike Sommerfeld, Vessi Vazers, and Michael the Bull himself. So it turns out Michael was suffering from some sort of colon issue, not just during this year's Arnold prep. He has been facing that same issue in the last 2 shows that he did, which were back in 2024, which led him to having a bloated midsection and a wider looking waistline on the stage. But I guess none of us noticed that on Michael, especially at his last show, which was the Arnold a couple of weeks back. Now Michael the Bull also had very high hopes going into this year's Arnold. He was very confident that he's gonna be fighting for the title, for the win here, with Mike Sommerfeld. But classic physique division is just so damn tight and so close that you cannot even be 1% off. And with a guy like Michael not being as classic as some of these other top guys, the margin of error for him, that is even smaller. Because it's just so easy for the judges to mark him down if he's off, if he's missing something. So top 4 at the Arnold, that is still very impressive. But if we look at it differently, he was beaten by Logan and Matt Grago, guys who have never beaten him before, and both these guys were behind him at the Olympia last year. So from that perspective, it was a loss. Now he's still prepping for this upcoming Pittsburgh Pro and also the New York Pro. And I'm gonna say, if he doesn't get to the root cause on why he's getting sick during the peak week, and that too consistently, I'm not sure doing another 2 shows, that too back to back, that is a great idea. Next up, we have a 16 days out physique update from James Hollingshead. Having a feeling here that James is gonna get a lot better the more he competes, and irrespective of the results of this past Arnold, where James placed way below his own expectations, and also our expectations, and also his coach's expectations. He has put himself out there in another big show against some very good competition again. And that, by the way, also shows the confidence that him and his coach have in their abilities. So not only is he doing this upcoming FIBO Germany, he's also doing Detroit Pro and also the Pittsburgh Pro, the mightiest of them all. But first of all, he has to show up much improved at this upcoming Detroit Pro, which by the way is gonna be his best chance of getting his Olympia qualification. So maybe these guys pushed way too hard with his diet during those final few weeks, Because James did not look like a guy who was weighing 310 pounds just a few months ago during the off-season. And I'm gonna go as far as saying this. He looked bigger 3 years ago at the Olympia, his last Olympia appearance. And if we talk about the different versions of James Hollingshead that we saw in the last few years, the Arnold 2024 Ohio version, that was by far his best look to date. He was bigger, way fuller, way rounder, and he had decent enough conditioning. And if there is anything these guys learned from this past Arnold, that is James cannot afford to come in flat. He immediately gets exposed, as he isn't the biggest or the most aesthetic or the widest guy on the stage. So with William Bonac doing Detroit Pro, and it's obviously our pick, or my pick to win, James just cannot afford to place lower than second in this lineup. But we all know his aim, that is the win. That is the Olympia qualification. Next up, we have an 8 weeks out physique update from Terrence Michael. So this is easily the most anticipated return in classic physique division this year, because Terrence just looks way bigger and way fuller, and he looks so on target for 8 weeks out. And the fact that he's coming back after more than 1 year. Now it's not just us the fans who think that Terrence is gonna be the biggest threat to Mike Sommerfeld at Classic Physique Mr. Olympia this year. Ian Valier, he also responded today to this question. And Ian is a guy who has keenly watched Classic Physique grow over the years. And he coached the greatest of all time, Chris Bumstead himself, into his first 3 Olympia title wins, and is also rating Terrence Michael as the biggest threat to Mike Sommerfeld at the Olympia in October this year. So out of all the guys who have been in the first Olympia callout in the past few years, only Terrence had this privilege of putting another 15 pounds of muscle without having to worry about making that weight cutoff. And that is precisely the reason we are gonna see the biggest version of Terrence on the stage this year. So his final look, that is also gonna come down to how these final few weeks go by in the context of his elbow and the injury that he had, as that was one of the biggest reasons he did not compete last year. But so far, he has been doing very well. So Pittsburgh Pro is gonna be the show where the real hype is gonna start for Classic Physique Olympia and the battle for the title in 2025. So in an ideal case scenario, Terrence should absolutely dominate that show, irrespective of the fact that Josema Beast is gonna be there. Next up, we have a physique update, 2 weeks past this Arnold, of the Classic Physique champion at the Arnold, Mike Sommerfeld. So that comment by Tyler Mannion clarifying why they gave the Arnold title to Mike Sommerfeld instead of Logan, that should put this debate to an end, whether Mike is classic or not. Just take a look at that front double bicep. He has all the tools to be called classic. He has those wide clavicles, small waistline, a very good vacuum, huge arms. Yes, when we get into comparison on whom is more classic, who has a more classic looking physique, that is where many will have different opinions. But let's give him and his coach, Neil Hill, all the credit. They won this Arnold so damn convincingly. It wasn't even close on the scorecards. And he's without any shadow of a doubt the favorite to become the 4th man in the history of Classic Physique division to win that Olympia title. Now Mike is such a dedicated individual, irrespective of what the time or the phase of the year it is. So he's in the detox phase right now, but he's still doing all the things necessary to stay on the top of the game. Now Chris Bumstead was the standard for Classic Physique division for 6 years in a row, but as of right now, it seems like Mike is gonna be the new face of Classic Physique. So what makes him so damn dangerous is that the man is so complete from every angle. Plus, he's a super poser. So hit the thumbs up button if you liked the video and smash the subscribe button if you wanna come back for more. Thanks for watching.